If you want to write your novel, and clearly you do, that's why you're watching this video, then have you given a thought about your writing habits? And what do they say about you? Today, we're talking about 3 ways you can improve your writing habits so that you can get that book of yours finished. The first and most important thing you need to think about when setting a habit is basically time and place. Now, one of the most common things I hear from authors, particularly new authors, is that they're saying, well, look, I just don't have the time to write. I'm just too busy, and life is busy. A lot of writers have other jobs, they have families to raise, they have homes to maintain. There's a whole stack of things that people do outside of writing. There's very few people who have the sort of fortunate lifestyle I have where I only look after myself and I can write all day, every day if I want to. But so, what you need to do if your writing is a priority is to make sure you have set times and set places to do your writing. Now, the time is something that you can only judge for yourself. It's something you're going to have to work out within the range of things you've already got to do. But what I quite often say to people when they complain they don't have enough time is that I'm asking them about where their writing comes in priority to everything else. Now, obviously, there are some things that that just have to come first. You have to look after your family, particularly if you have children. You have to look after your own health as well. Then there's the job commitments. I realize that no boss is going to accept your thing. Well, like the muse has hit me this morning. I don't feel like coming into work today. So I appreciate that there are certain blocks of your day where writing is just impossible. However, I've also spoken at length on different videos about how you can take something as small as a 5 or a 10 minute block, maybe during your lunch break at work, maybe first thing in the morning before you go to work or before your children are awake. And I do realize I am a mum and a grandmother, so I do realize that you'd probably have to get up pretty early to get ahead of the kids. But in the evening, if you have small children, we're going to assume they're going to go to bed at a reasonable hour, and you can always write after that. But if you set that priority, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes a day, you can still be generating work on your story. And what's really fascinating about that is that if you are doing that, even in small increments, your brain is working on your story in the meantime, while you're busy doing something else, while you're in the shower, while you're washing dishes, while you're tending to your children, and things like that. The brain is awesomely clever and it's still working on your story, provided you're giving it a little time somewhere in your day to add something to your word count. Now, I always swear by, as you know, I always swear by my little dictaphone tool. This little doodad has got a USB. It just goes into my USB in my computer, and then it operates as another drive, and I can get the files transcribed. And I've all of a sudden got words. I can, like, if I'm in the shower, is a really bad one. If I'm in the shower, I seem to be thinking about my story. And the moment I get out, like I'm sort of like wrapping myself up in a towel, and then I'm grabbing my dictaphone and I'm just speaking out that scene that I can see in my head. And then I'll go and do all the other things that I'm wanting to do. But those words are here. And it really doesn't take long at all to transfer them to my computer, edit them, because of course we never transcribe the way we write. For a start, we don't put in commas. And yeah, that's words done for the day. So maybe that's something else. Maybe if you're a particularly fit person, um, one of my author friends suggested this to me the other day, and I was thinking, have you seen me lately? I'm not that fit. However, walking and dictating, if you have a walk every day, or you use a treadmill or whatever else, why don't you dictate your words? Perhaps the main point of this bit is you can find time if your writing is important. So there's that point. But another thing that I find is important is place. Now, this may not apply to everybody. I'm perhaps just a teensy bit OCD. I like my day to follow a set routine. I have my space where I do my writing. It's a dedicated space in my house. Again, I'm really fortunate to have that because I have a whole house at my disposal. But sometimes something as simple as a little laptop set up in the corner of your bedroom, or I don't advocate the writing on the kitchen table. Now it is possible, but the problem with a public space like a kitchen table, dining room table, or even in your living room is that chances are that space is being used by others. So it's really hard for you to carve out that little space of your own. Like your laptop's going to keep getting moved, people are going to be putting things on top of it, that sort of thing. If you can get yourself just a little space of your own anywhere at all in the house, then it makes it's like it's a psychological thing. If you go to that space, your brain starts to recognize, we're writing, goes into writing mode. So time helps with that, space helps with that, and it helps you maintain more regular writing habits. Now, do you need to have a set time and a set place to be writing so that you can get your book finished? No, not at all. But if you're struggling to get motivation to keep your book going, particularly if you're in that saggy middle piece, having the time that you've carved out specifically for writing and having the space, which is equally dedicated to your writing, it sends like a signal in your brain that, hey, this writing thing is important. So give a lot of thought to what you can do to improve your habits in terms of the time and space. Now, a second point I want to make has got to do with how you actually, what your process is as a writer. For example, are you a plotter or a pantser? Now, anybody who's watched any of my videos knows that I'm a pantser. That's just the way I am. I have no idea what's going to happen in my story when I start to write it, and I'm pleasantly surprised when I get to the end. That's just the way I write my books, and my brain is used to that. But for a lot of people, they prefer a bit more structure. And having a plot or even a basic outline can help indicate to your brain where that story's meant to go next. Now, I don't advocate being slavish to that outline or that plot, that outline that you've done. Just get on and write. And if your brain suddenly says, well, how about does this character does this instead of this? That's fine. It doesn't matter. But having a structure, having an idea on where you want your story to go can help you better maintain writing habits. As I say, I am an anomaly in that respect because my process in this regards is, I'm sitting down today, I'm in my chair, my file is up, what's going to happen to my characters today? And I just type. But that's how my brain works with that. For a lot of people, particularly if you are struggling, having a bit of guidance done first. I believe I have a video, I will put it, I never know which side it goes, but anyway, I'll put it up here on how to do a really basic outline, then that can also help feed your muse and have your brain working on your story when you're not actually sitting down and writing. And finally, the third thing I wanted to mention or talk about was, is your writing fun? If you think about your writing and you go and clean under the bed instead, or if you're thinking about your writing and you think, I haven't cleaned the freezer out in a long time, what's that suggesting to you? What's that telling you? It's telling you that your writing's not fun. If you'd rather clean out the fluff bunnies from under your bed instead of writing the plot bunnies on your work, or if you prefer to clean out your fridge or your freezer rather than sitting down and creating wonderful worlds, then for some reason you have lost the idea that writing is fun. And sometimes we can do that to ourselves. Sometimes we are so hell-bent on we've got to get this finished, we've got to get this done, that we become almost like a martyr to our cause. We're going to do it whether we like it or not. No, don't do that. Darn it, the sun has come out. Now I look like I'm sitting like a hobbit in a cave, but that's all right. I live in New Zealand. Hobbits are here. Now, so the thing is that you have got to have fun with it. If you are writing because you're forced to, if every word feels like an effort, that is going to come across on the page. No matter what type of story you're writing, it's going to come across on the page. And you don't want the reading part to be angsty and difficult and stiff and stilted. You want it to flow. And for things to flow, your manuscript to flow, you need to be having fun with it. And I think that's when you need to remind yourself that one of the most amazing things, particularly about writing fiction, is that we control our worlds. Okay? There is shit out there. Okay? The world is going to hell in a handbasket. And it is absolutely horrible. But there are gems. And a lot of those gems are in the books that you read. So this is what you've got to be thinking about with your writing process. You want to have fun with it. You want to be excited by it. And if you're not, then you have to ask yourself why. Are you too tired? Are you overstressed? Have you got things going in your life right now that just doesn't make that writing easy? That's totally understandable because life happens. But if your writing's not fun anymore, then please don't push it. Allow yourself to step back, to take a deep breath, and just let it go for a while. The wonderful thing about controlling our worlds is that we can control them at our own pace and time. Ultimately, you will write the book you want to read. But as you want to have fun reading it, it should be fun when you're writing it. So if you're making up a world of excuses to not write, then maybe at the moment this isn't the right time. Or maybe you need to remember what it is that it made it fun. Like, what fantastic idea did you have to start this book in the first place? Maybe go back to the beginning and start reading it again. And when you're reading it again, remind yourself as you're reading what you've already written, that excitement that you had when you first thought about your book, and when you first decided to commit to doing this. But honestly, no matter, if you don't set a time and you don't set a place and you alternate between plotting and pantsing and everything in between, none of that matters if you're not having fun, because writing is supposed to be fun. And I know for myself, as an older person living in a very chaotic and sometimes confusing world, having the control over my characters and my worlds in my stories and bringing fun and joy and love to my readers, that is why I do what I do. That is what makes my writing fun. So maybe you need to look for what will make your writing fun in the same way. And I have one more bonus tip for those of you who are full-time authors like myself. You may have noticed, or maybe not, because as I say, I'm looking like I'm sitting in a cave, but never mind. I'm not going to begrudge the sunshine, okay? But I'm tired today, and that happens. But when you're setting writing habits as a full-time author, it's just as important to schedule yourself time off. I have spoken many times about the fact that for the longest time, I wrote for 7 days a week. Every single day, 7 days a week. I have put literally tens of thousands of hours into my writing career over almost 12 years. And that's fine. I can do that. But one of the things that I was making the mistake of was not scheduling time off. So that's what I'm going to do this weekend. I am taking some time off. I'm going to spend some time in my garage making arty crafty things, because that's what I do in my spare time. And then later on today, I'm going to curl up and read somebody else's amazing book. Is it yours? Maybe you should tell me about it in the comments below. But scheduling time off is equally important if writing is your life the way it is for me. So just a thought. So what do you think? What do you struggle with? Do you think you have good writing habits, or are there things you'd like to change? What are your barriers to setting up writing habits, do you think? Because I do hope that I have made it plain in this video that having writing habits, good writing habits, is actually, it does help promote your productivity. And as I say, it's meant to be fun. So what do you think? Let me know. Agree, disagree, whatever you like. It doesn't matter, because it's all engagement and YouTube's all about engagement. But let me know in the comments what you think about your writing habits. Have you got some tips and suggestions for other authors? Because that would be really cool if you wanted to share them too. But in the meantime, I post long form content on Mondays and Thursdays. And yeah, until we get to the next one, I hope you have an awesome day. I hope you have an awesome writing day. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye.